both this article and the other article that wanted to show people is even Dave Ramsey is now saying like, hey, there's a big tax downside of these 401ks. We're trapping a bunch of money in to be taxed later because we're not just delaying the tax, we're delaying the calculation of said tax, which means it's going to be whatever the rates are when we take it out. A lot of people forget in the mid-1990s, there was a success tax.
Yeah.
That if you took out over a certain amount of money each year or you had too much money in your plan, you got to pay an extra 15%. And you know how I learned about that was a CPA friend of mine in Las Vegas who was a lot older than me when I started in the career. A lot older. I mean, I was like in my early 20s and he was like basically the age I am now, a lot older than I was then. Dude, everything hurts. Everything hurts. Like one side note. So I took like a week off working out when I went to Oregon with the family. I did a little runs on the beach, but that was it. I came back from that and I realized this the first time in almost 2.5 years that I wasn't sore from working out. So
maybe turn that back. Anyway.
Yeah. So this idea of I'm going to be in a lower tax rate when I retire is probably not likely if I'm making a lot of money in my 40s because I don't plan on making a lot less later unless I plan on retiring early. Oh, by the way, if you plan on retiring early, Corey, what's the date we can get our hands on that money?
89.5, unless you want to do some crazy esoteric 72T, which are like, you probably don't want to do that if you can help it. But we'll just leave it at that. So yeah, Burns, he had a point in the summary of his article, right? If your income is higher than Social Security wage base maximum, your tax deferred saving may work better than it does for 94% of all workers who earn less. Like if you're making that much money, you're already paying taxes on Social Security at the end. Like maybe it could work out, but not if you're say under 45 and want to retire before 60, because then that pre-tax, that deferred money you can't get at in meaningful amounts until 59 and a half. And I would even say there's plenty of likelihood, like you want to roll the dice, the taxes will be lower or higher. Like brackets won't have changed. They won't add that excise tax back. They won't add something. Like it's just a lot of control in the hands of the government. Oh, Indeed. And by the way, if you're making that much money, this $22,500 you're putting in this year, and whether that's taxed at 25% or 37% this year is like a freaking rounding error in your success anyway. So it's like, why are we obsessing this much over that? Like it's going to make very little difference one way or the other because it's such a small amount of money relative to your overall plan. Sorry, all of this pent up excitement from not having been here.
I know. I like it. People like, you won't like me when I'm angry. Like the Hulk says, it's like, I like Corey when he's a little angry. I like it. Not a lot, just spicy. I got one last thing to say on this because you reminded me of something, Corey. The other thing that you don't think about is if I'm going to use 20,000 as a round number. If I'm a 35% tax bracket and I put 20,000 in, I know right now, 7,000 of that money belongs to the IRS. It's just a matter of time until they get their chunk. Now, the chunk could go higher if taxes go up. It could go lower if taxes go down. But right now, I got 20 grand in the plan and I have a partner. In fact, on day one of 35% tax bracket, day one, he has 45%, my partner. Or they. That's probably a good use of a pronoun. They. Right. They at the IRS don't have, they actually just don't even care, but they're now my partner. So it's a little bit like going on the plane and having to share the armrest with somebody. You don't get the whole armrest. You only get 13,000 of it. The other 7,000 is the IRS. But if it was Roth 401k, all the 20,000 is mine. So I'm already saving more for retirement because 100% of what's in that Roth 401k is mine. And if you look at a regular 401k, I remember when I was in my 20s, I first had over $100,000 in my 401k, Corey. I was like, man, that feels good. And it took me, I teach this to people, and it took me like a minute to go back to the statement, look at it. I said, nope, it's like 65 grand of mine.
Even this Scott Burns, he does say, he observes, like, if you make the tax deferred, if you make the pre-tax contribution, you would have more money in your paycheck, or if you put it into the Roth, you have less, which is not actually true. Because if you're doing a full apples to apples, it would be the same amount either way. You'd either like with the Roth, when you're putting the full match, the max in, you're just putting more money away.
That's
for
right.
you than you did did before.
Because if in my example, I could put 13,000 in Roth or 20 in the 401k, but I'm wanting to put the extra 7,000 in the Roth,
right?
Which means it's all mine. Which means I actually got $20,000 a year into a tax exempt environment instead of 20,000, of which 13,000 is mine in a tax deferred environment. It's very different.